Throughout the rest of this course, you're going to be working in your hands-on lab in a fairly complex, pre-built application solution. And there's some good things about this because you're going to be working in an environment that's realistic. You're going to be using a variation of the MVC environment. It's kind of a MVVM if you're familiar with that environment. You've got models, you've got views, you've got view models. It is a modularized application. You'll have multiple files for this. And the idea is that it's supporting an event management system, right? You're working for this company, Contoso, you're building this application for Contoso, they want to have event management, and that's what this is providing. And that's really going to be the core of what you're doing going forward in the class. I want to show you this because I don't want you to get lost as you're going through. Not that you would get lost, but I might get lost if someone didn't say, okay, here are all the different components. It is a complex system, and one thing I will encourage you to do is take a look at this system really as you're going forward, as you're working through this. Go beyond the labs and kind of get a feel because it's a kind of a neat design.
I'm going to take you through a bit of the lab project, really lab solution that you're going to work with for most of the rest of the labs throughout this course. A couple things to note. First of all, it's actually a pretty complex solution. As you'll see in just a moment, there are a number of projects. The primary interface that you'll work with a lot, although not the only thing you'll work with, is an ASP.NET MVC project that is using the MVVM pattern, the model view model pattern. And it is highly modularized. And the good thing of this is that you're going to go and see how to implement the Azure environment in what is really a well-patterned solution. The one thing that you do want to be careful with as you go through the labs is that you can get a little bit lost in the complexity of this highly modularized solution. The lab steps are going to work right and all that, but keep in mind you want to take, particularly during this lab, the first lab, really take a look at this project and this solution and make sure that you're good with it. Okay, so let's take a quick look. I've got Visual Studio open and I've got the solution open. Now, first thing you'll notice, there are 9 projects in this solution, and they're broken out into 4 solution folders. There's an administration folder with a project that you will eventually update, and it's not actually fully functional in this demo. That's the management interface, but I'll show you what it does, and I'll kind of point you to where it goes. There's actually a service, and this is a WCF, Windows Communication Foundation service, that is set up to work with something called a Service Bus Relay, and you'll learn about this later on. I've actually got this running, and it actually goes out and connects to Azure Service Bus, and it provides Service Bus provides exactly what it sounds like. It's a relay to an on-premises capability. So far, so good. There are 2 roles that you will eventually deploy. There's a background worker role, which is handling requests in the background for things like registration. And then there's the primary web application, which is this contoso.events.web, which is an MVC application. And if you're familiar with MVC, Model View Controller, first of all, what you'll notice is there's not too much here in terms of controllers. There are no models here. But there are a number of views, relatively straightforward. You've got some event views, an index, and some registration views. Okay, now most of what you'll see and where you'll do a lot of your work is here under the shared environment. One thing that you will run for many of the labs is this data generation project, and it just literally generates data, a lot of which is going into, for example, your storage, and initially it's going to go into development storage. And so, for example, if I go to event registrations here, this is I just popped over there pretty quickly. I just went to Server Explorer under Azure, my development server. I've got this fired up. And you've got a table, and we'll talk about table data later, but just see kind of where this is. This is all data that I loaded moments before running this demonstration. Okay, so that's not too bad. When I go to view models, there are quite a number of view models. For example, if I wanted to work with the events list, here's the events list view model, and you'll see a fairly common pattern where each view model is going to have a constructor, and really the work of the view model is done in the constructor. In this case, you're returning a set of events from an events context object, and then you are putting those into a public list, in this case list property. And again, you'll see that pattern pretty routinely across your different view models. And then you've got actual data models here and a number of data models. So for example, here's the event data model. And it is exactly what you would expect. It is, in fact, a data model. All right, and I'm not going to go into every one of these projects. Just be aware that, as I said, it is a highly modularized solution with a number of projects that you're going to be using to do a variety of things. Now I'm going to go ahead and start this up and just show you a couple of things just to give you an idea of what you've got. I've got this starting with, it's actually starting with 3 things, and I have to admit I didn't bother to make the web job work, so I'll just go beyond that. You will make the web job work in a later lab. All right, upcoming events. So this is what a user would see, and I can see the upcoming events, and I can go and take a look and get more data on the event. Now, a lot of this, honestly, you're not touching. All right, you're going to be really filling in the back end of this for the most part. You're not going to be doing any interface development. All right, but let's say if somebody were to register, let's say I can register sales and employee ID 4321. First name would be sales, last name would be person, and submit. And it's going to submit, although I didn't set up, I did this a little bit quick and dirty. I did not set up quite everything. The hotel service, which is running, I didn't get to run exactly perfectly. This will eventually come up though. There we go. And I registered, and you're supposed to get a list of nearby hotels, which you'll do. The other element, and this is one that you will make work, it's actually pretty cool. You'll do a lot of things with storage with this particular application. This is really where the events administration application comes in. The idea is that you've got a set of events that you can manage, and you'll be able to go into an event, and for example, you'll be able to create and download a sign-in sheet based on the registrants for that particular event, and it'll be stored and generated, and you get to do some pretty cool stuff with that. So in any case, again, the purpose of this is not to give you too many details, but just to make sure as you see this, what can be a little bit overwhelming at first solution with all these different projects in it, that you understand where that's coming from. And that's really the basis of, as I said, your labs going forward. Again, the idea being that it's this event registration and management system, and it is defined as a series of very well modularized projects in a single solution, and use the folders to kind of guide you as you go through. Because I think it is well organized, but you don't want to get lost while you're going through the process.
All right, that is the lab that you're going to be working with, or that's the project, the solution you're going to be working with it throughout the lab, so it's something you're going to become pretty familiar with.